Hi. A couple of months ago I published a video about DIY bed leveling sensor for my 3D printer, and recently I received some questions about this sensor, how to build it, or where are the files and stuff like that. So I decided to upload the STL files to Thingiverse along with the board design, and I decided to make this video, or actually a series of videos, about the building of the sensor. So this part is about building the 3D printed parts. So let's get started. First, we need to download the parts from Thingiverse, STL files, slice it with our favorite slicer, and then print it with a 3D printer. So here I'm printing on a Hypercube 3D clone, and the nozzle size is 0.4 millimeters, the layer height is 0.2, and the infill was 50%. So these are the printed parts. There are some imperfections which we need to clean first. So what I do usually first, I just look around and look for bumps and stuff like that, which shouldn't be there, like this. And I use a knife, sharp knife, to cut those off. So now I try to put the slider into the base, and at first it binds up because of these imperfections on the print. So the slider has some grooves, and I use a small file with the rectangular profile and put the edge into the groove and just file it a little bit. Also on the other side. Then I test again. So whenever I do something, I always test whether it moves or not. It still binds up, so I look for the base. Usually at the end of the bumps and grooves there are the imperfections, so I just use the knife to cut a small chamfer at the end. But not much, so don't overdo this. So I do it both ends. Try again. And still binds up a little bit. So I found that the end of the slider was a little bit wider, so I just used the sandpaper to sand it down, but as you can see, just a couple of pulls on the sandpaper, not too much, and that's enough. And now the slider just slides out on its own, under its own weight, so no need to push it, just turn the base and it slides out. It should be like that. So now this is perfect. Next I clean up the spacer. So this is just a spacer that works with my printer, that basically keeps the sensor away from the carriage. And this spacer will be glued to the bottom of the base. So I just try to test fit without gluing. So both the base and the spacer has some holes on it, and I try to align those holes, 4 tiny holes. You can see them now. And then I will use a plastic toothpick to align the holes. So here is the toothpick. It's made of plastic. And the thickness of this toothpick is changing, so I have to cut it at the right place, so it takes some try and error. So I just cut it with this tool here, and then try to fit it to the hole. If it's too thick, then cut it in another place. So try to align everything again. Okay, so this will go fine, but I found it's easier if I push it into the spacer from the face which will be glued, and then just cut it to the right size that way, so the what hangs out, it should go into the hole on the base. And because it's narrower at the tip, it's easy to push it through. Okay, I will put there two of these. Opposite sides diagonally. So like this, we have 2 pieces there, and now we can start gluing. So first test fit, last test, and fits perfectly, so we will not run into trouble when the glue is there. And it will look like this when it's glued. So take it apart. I'm going to use this super glue to glue the 2 parts together, and I will apply this one on the spacer, so that way I can avoid to put it somewhere on the base where it is not needed. So I just put a scrap paper on the desk to protect it and start gluing. Now this should go everywhere on this side of the spacer. So all the way, all the surface should be covered in super glue. Be careful not to overdo it. And then glue the 2 parts together. So just push it there. Of course, super glue sticks best to your hand, so be careful with that. And now I will cut 2 other pieces of toothpick and just put it to the remaining 2 holes, glue them to the remaining 2 holes. Now in this lower right corner I see a little gap. So if you have a relatively thin super glue, then you can just apply it close to the gap, and basically the super glue will just suck into the gap. Okay, I test fit the toothpick and start gluing, just a drop of super glue into the hole, and that's it. Now I just apply a little bit of super glue to the corner gap there, and I try to push it down. Okay, perfect. Now we just have to make the last one, and that one is a bit in an inconvenient place, so I will use a pair of pliers to hold the toothpick. Now I don't cut the toothpicks short, because later on I will use them to hold the board in place. So the board will be put over these toothpicks, and then later on with the soldering iron I just make a head, so make the end of the toothpick flat, larger than the hole on the board, so that will keep it in place. So just leave the toothpicks as they are at this phase. Now, if you don't have plastic toothpicks, you can try to use filament, so the size is about the same, like 1.75 millimeters filament could also be used. I haven't tried it, but the whole size should be okay for that. Alright, so this is the end of this part, and in the next part I will assemble the printed circuit board and put it on the sensor. Thanks for watching. Bye.